Good morning. It's Friday morning. This is Scott Cullen. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Cannata Report. It's time for Fridays with Frank. And here I am with Frank Cannata, our founder. Hey, Frank, how you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, Scott. How about you?
I'm doing all right. So what's on your mind today?
We're in the midst of, as you well know, of compiling the information from our survey, and a couple of things have kind of struck me. One, we got some feedback from a manufacturer that said they saw no value in the survey. And that's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. I respect the people, and they're very knowledgeable, and they're very successful. So who am I to argue with their view? But I must confess, there are many others who say they get a great deal from it, both dealers and vendors. And particularly for a couple of the leasing companies are telling me they use it all year long. At any rate, we have our pros, we have our cons. But in looking at the data, there are some this year's survey, and we're by no means done. This is just as an early view and the information we have been able to determine. One of the first things we do is address revenue. And it's amazing to me that the top 13 producers were responsible for 45% of the revenue. That to me is an incredible statistic. Through the pandemic, although they've had their problems with back orders in the supply chain, and one even confessed to me he started the new year with $20 million in back orders. But you know, when you're doing more than 150 million a year, I mean, you're not going to have a wake. It's still a sizable business, and yes, it is challenging, obviously, for that level. But at any rate, their business is viable, and their recovery is ongoing. And at some point, the manufacturers are going to catch up in terms of the product. In addition to looking at how from the survey perspective, looking at how the pandemic impacted them, and that's something we've been working hard on trying to assess. It's interesting to me, dealers are reacting in two ways. Number one, because of the supply chain problems, you have some that have reverted to being dedicated. We have a group, one of the manufacturers, and I don't want to give too much away, that 50% of the dealers are dedicated to them. That's amazing. Now, that same group was never that high before. It was in the 30s. 35, I think, was the top, and they were consistently one of the top manufacturers with dedicated dealers. Then you go the contrary side, you got all of a sudden, you see these dealers with 4 lines. And you say, well, I can understand the logic to that, to go down the line and see who's got product, right? But I think that's got to be a failed way to approach this. And I would certainly encourage those dealers that are doing that to think long and hard about it. I know it's desperation, and I understand what's driving this, because they've got orders they can't fill, and particularly for, I won't call it a smaller business, but a business that it's not doing tens of millions of dollars, but a business that may be doing $10 million. That is tough. But again, as they jump from or add line to line to line, those companies that they're going to and saying, you know, I want to take on the line, will you sell me? Those manufacturers are going to be, you know, they're going to say, what for? What's the end result? You're going to buy a few machines now, and when your primary comes back online with full production capability, kiss us goodbye. And meanwhile, you have my product. You have the service training and the sales training that goes with everything that we provide. and you don't sell it anymore, but you sell against us. So how enthusiastic can that manufacturer be to take on a new dealer when he's having a tough time providing his existing dealer's product? So these are some of the questions that are coming up in this survey. The findings will be overall positive. And I think what's creating that positivity is the fact that the dealers that are in reasonably good financial condition are acquiring at an amazing rate. I mean, I had a conversation with one of the dealers who showed not a bad increase year over year. And it's one of the dealers, he's in it every year. And we can't thank him enough. So I reached out to him, and he kind of chuckled. He says, well, I just acquired 3 dealers. Not 1, not 2, 3. So, and that was very telling. So obviously, when you see a deal, it jumps out. We're fortunate that we have a group of dealers who respond every year, and we can track their performance. And it's so encouraging. And for us, because you really have somebody you know who's been doing this a long time, and you can see the differences every year in the business and where they're going. So again, I'll just like to close this and say thanks for all those who contributed. You did a good thing, and I hope those that don't think much of the survey read your efforts in the October and November issues. Thank you.